I was like, oh no, it's just me. And what am I going to do?
Hello, people. I'm sorry this isn't the build talk. So we don't know what happened, but we'll try and get in touch with Melissa. So we're doing a very impromptu meet Annette. I'm echoing. That's very frustrating. So yeah, we're doing a meet Annette. So say hello if you are here already. I'm gonna potentially mute myself and then come back on again. Hello, Alice. So Annette, you don't have to look at the comments, but the comments are down the side. You've got private chat and then you've got normal comments as well. There's Victoria. Yeah, so it's a very impromptu one. We just decided, well, we have to go on. The show must go on. Hi, Lai. Hi, Jez. Hello, lovely people. Exactly, right. So we could actually start very, very briefly by explaining, for those of you who are used to being in the comment section, and anytime I mention my friend Annette, you will see Annette in capitals with an exclamation mark in the comment section by a small number of people. So I should probably explain that at some point as well. So I'm going to make a little note that just says Annette in capitals, and we'll come back and explain what that's about. Because there is an Annette. People were surprised that you actually existed because it's been this ongoing joke in the comment section. And Jude says, hello, Annette. Lovely to see and meet you.
Oh, hello.
Nice I can actually put it up there. There you go. Look, lovely. Hello to my friend Annette. So yeah, so it is impromptu. So we'll be talking about a number of things. We'll just be making it up on the spot. So I have no idea how this, what we're going to end up talking about. It will be autistic things because that's what Annette and I do. We talk about autistic things. We've made a whole sort of, well, starting a career. It's not much of a career right now, but we're starting a career in the research, our research interests into autistic experience. So let's start with our typical things that we ask our guest speakers, which is, who are you and what is or are your dedicated interests? Annette.
Okay, my name is Annette Foster. I am originally from Seattle, Washington in the States. I've lived in Montana and Arizona as well. I went to Arizona State University. I'm an artist, first of all, I think. I don't know anymore, but yeah. And I did a Master's of Fine Art at Arizona State University, actually, and moved to the UK, I think, because I just didn't fit in anywhere, and ended up, I was there for a long time working as an artist and teaching art, doing things in schools as an artist, all sorts of things. Always wanted to do a PhD, ended up going to the University of Kent after getting divorced and also discovering that I was autistic. So it's interesting because I say I'm late diagnosed autistic. I was at 39, but there's people now who are late diagnosed who are like 70 years old. So maybe I'm not so late. It's all relative, isn't it?
Later discovered.
Later discovered, yeah. Later discovered, yeah.
I think, well, I guess when you were, so what year were you diagnosed?
I'm a bit unsure now. I think it was 2010 or 11. I was 30. Wait, I'm 49. So it was 10 years ago. Yeah. So no, it was 2011.
11. Yeah. I mean, relatively at the time, it probably would have been late discovered because I feel that we've definitely seen a good boom in people realizing they're autistic. So like, there's been an increase in that.
Yeah, at that time it was late discovered, definitely. But I'm sure,
So what do you say your dedicated interests are at the moment? Because like, the thing for poor Annette has, so the reason none of you have met Annette yet until now, even though we started Aucademy last May, is because Annette was in her final year writing up her thesis for her PhD. And I've been in that position, and it's a horrible position. And you kind of just get sucked in and you don't do anything else. So that's why you've not met Annette. So, but Annette, do you have any idea what your dedicated interests are at the moment, given that it's just been thesis for like several years now?
Well, I'm similar to Chloe in some ways. Autism is definitely a passion of mine. I'm looking at, well, I wouldn't even say autism anymore. I would say autistic experience, autistic identity, and community are a huge passion of mine. What else are my passions? Right now, I mean, art has always been a passion of mine from a very young age, and craft and things like that. So that's a huge kind of part of my life. And really, I made a career out of being an artist. Yeah, and I think we do have a career, Chloe. It might not make very much money, but it's a career.
Yeah, we definitely don't do it for the money.
No.
We definitely do it because of the well, I mean, this we should probably go into like how we met and why we ended up doing the things that we do together. So you already said when, because my next question is always, when did you discover you're autistic? And you've done that one.
Oh,
Rude.
yeah, sorry. Yeah,
it's fine.
I always do that.
No, it's fine. And Annette also, so Annette, you are autistic, dyslexic, dyspraxic with attention differences, and attention differences is the only one that's not officially, in quotation marks, diagnosed.
Yeah.
So Annette's a very different autistic person to me.
Definitely.
And I always say that's why we also get on as friends, and also in terms of our interests and when we work together on projects. Basically, I have lots of ideas and Annette's like a doer. So I kind of just go, Annette, we're going to do this thing. And Annette's like, okay, let's do this thing. And we just get on with it. Shall we talk about how we met then? Maybe that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah. And I can always talk about my late diagnosis as well. It's very different from your experience as well. So,
which is also, I guess that's also part and parcel of why we ended up doing things like our programs and stuff together, because we both, your experience of your discovery journey wasn't necessarily very positive, and we didn't want that for other autistic people. We want people's autistic discovery journeys to be as positive as possible.
Yes, exactly. And to have a community.
Talk about how we meet quite often, because it comes up in a number of different things and trainings, and I'm describing how autistic people make friends, because it's very different, or can be quite different, to non-autistic people. But so do you want to tell the story, so how we met?
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, I was I think I'm in my second year of my PhD, and I've been going to or maybe it was my first, I don't know actually, but I'm going to a support group for autistic people. It was at the time, I think maybe it was for women and non-binary and trans people. And Chloe came to the group, and she was just amazing, Chloe, and just talking about her experience. She was a PhD student, and that she didn't really have very many friends at the university. She just discovered she was autistic, and I just kind of raised my hand and I said, I'll be your friend. And then we were friends, which is amazing, because I felt quite lonely. I didn't know any other autistic PhD students, let alone very many PhD students that I could relate to, or I felt like I had anything in common with. And I don't know, we just hit it off right away, didn't we, Chloe? And yeah, it just went from there.
We can never remember whether I was diagnosed at that point, or if I still feel like it was just before I was diagnosed, and I was going along to like work it out, because I remember saying, I don't know if I'm autistic because I don't do that thing and I don't do this thing, and I didn't even think I had special interests in quotation marks until people were like, well, it's obviously psychology and mental health and stigma. And I was like, but does that count when it's your PhD and it's your education? But basically I made it so that my interests, I could focus on them pretty much all the time. So I hadn't thought about it.
That's the best way, isn't it? Make your passion something that you can focus on and be your career, what you do.
But I hadn't thought of it that way. So I
know. I didn't think of it that way.
I thought that's why I started going to the group, to try and work that stuff out. But you think I was diagnosed already at that point?
Yeah, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't know.
Yeah, it's all a bit weird, like the timing. So then I'm thinking, so at that point, you were already an artist, and you before you even started your PhD, you'd already been doing, or at least done one Adventures of Super. At the time, it would have been Aspie Girl.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah. Adventures of Super Aspie Girl. Yes, I think. that was the first performance, which was in 2017 at the Autism Arts Festival, the first one at University of Kent. And yeah, that was kind of me. Yeah, okay. So my PhD is basically looking at articulating women, non-binary, and trans people's experience of being autistic through kind of, at the beginning, it was through kind of live art and visual art. And I did a series of workshops with, well, I devised a series of workshops that I wanted to work with a group of autistic, they ended up being all late diagnosed university students. And my performance was basically me kind of, okay, I felt like I need to articulate my own experience before I ask anybody else to articulate their experience. That was super important to me. So I kind of made this performance, and I'm a performance artist. I've been a performance artist since a long time, over 20 years now, making kind of really autistic work, but I didn't know it was autistic work for a long time because I didn't even know I was autistic. But looking at it now, I was like, oh yeah, that really was me talking about my experience and trying to convey it to people. But yeah, so I made a piece of work about my experience of being autistic. I'm trying to explain, what was it about? Yeah, I guess one of the main features
I saw it, because I remember, I don't think I'd known you that long, and I remember you like inviting me to go along, and a number of us went along as from the autistic group. And I remember, because I'm very logical, so I really sometimes struggle with quite abstract art. And I remember being confused, for instance, because there was a whole segment at the beginning where you didn't talk and you just were putting all sorts of objects like telephones, like old-fashioned telephones, like in your mouth and things like this. And I'm sitting there going, she's going to have to explain this stuff afterwards to me because I don't get it. Like, I like people to explain the thing or the purpose. But I think for that part, wasn't that, I think when you did explain it to me, it was about not having the words and testing the world in a different way. Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess for one thing, it was about kind of being stimmy with objects and playing with objects in a different way that most people wouldn't do. It was also about communication. It was about not having the language to describe your experience and just trying to reach out to people however you can. That part of the performance I cut out. I was like, yeah, I don't know if I would. Yeah, I don't know if it totally worked because I don't know if I fully understood what I wanted to do with it. I guess sometimes you just make stuff and you don't realize.
But I think what's interesting, because obviously then you started doing workshops with the autistic students and participants, and I was part of that for your PhD. And yeah, so all your, I guess, trying to explain your workshops, I feel like the end
Wait,
product...
we can't stop there, because my performance isn't just me putting objects in my mouth.
Oh yeah, I know. But what I was going to say is that, like, the next time that you did, you know, an adventures of an Autie, and it was a gang. Yeah. I know I'm going back and forth, but yeah, I feel like because there were different autistic people and we were putting things together, it kind of not lost in like this negative way, but it lost some of that really abstractness. Because I obviously, that when it was quite abstract, I would say, are people going to understand this? And we actually kept that in the show. So we'll come back to that bit in a minute. So start with the workshops.
Okay, start with the works. Well, yeah. Well,
no, you want to explain the rest of the show?
I won't explain the whole show, but basically, part of the show, which is in Super Autie Girls as well, is me. I wrote a letter. One of the things my supervisors, I think they suggested it to me, was to write a letter to Simon Baron-Cohen, because I was quite upset with him, especially when I first started reading, you know, articles by really great academics like, oh gosh, what's the name? What's their name? Can't remember right now.
Does it begin with a Y, the surname?
Yes. Your good. Yeah. I just couldn't believe, you know, Simon Baron-Cohen's kind of insistence on this kind of whole idea that autistic people were mostly male-brained, and that only autistic people that were male-brained. Oh yeah, just the stereotypes basically. And I wrote a letter to him, and I performed that letter while doing yoga. I think the yoga part was basically me trying to deal with the situation the best I could, and it calmed me down. Yeah, so that was part of the performance that actually stayed in Super Auti Gang. And I did a tour of my brain. I created this kind of an image of my brain on the floor, which I kind of toured it. But in a lot of ways, that first performance was, I kind of still feel like I was part of the culture of autism at that point. I didn't know very many autistic people, only a few people that were in the group. I didn't know anything about autistic identity or culture. I think the Autism Arts Festival was the first time I'd been in a truly autistic space that, you know, it was all autistic people, which was hugely influential. Yeah, it was kind of the best that I could do at the time. I still kind of look back at some of it and think, oh, it's a little bit negative. I mean, it was very positive as well, but
the bits I did like the fact that you had, this like segment of brain that had been electric taped on the floor, and you were walking around it and explaining and I always forget what it's called, but the satellite dish.
Oh yeah, the reticular formation, the part of the brain that is a satellite dish for the sensory information. And yeah, I mean, I think the original version of that I didn't have, but I got audience to come up on stage and kind of be sensory information and kind of pretend like they're going through my brain, and kind of basically to illustrate
stomping on your brain.
Yeah, just how intense it is for autistic people and their experience of the sensory world. And that was really, really important to me, to convey that and explain it in a way that was kind of practical and fun and kind of different than the way that people had seen it before. Yeah.
I'm also looking, because I know originally I put some photos up on Aucademy right at the start, because Annette's always, even though she's been in the background and you've never met her, Annette, it has always been part of Aucademy, but it's just been taking time, letting her get on with her PhD before, you know, actually trying to come back in. And so, I mean, let's have a look. What ones have I got? So we've got, here we go. If I share.
She's going to share some pictures.
Yeah, just some of the key ones.
Yeah.
Nobody look at how many.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that bit. Yeah, that's a more abstract bit as well, isn't it? Where
but this is still potentially, I mean, obviously ignoring this part, but there's the part where you're reading your letter to Simon Baron-Cohen, which is a very angry letter, just basically saying you're the reason that so many of us who aren't that typical presentation have been missed as autistic people, and we've really struggled and suffered for it. So sorry, I'm skipping through some of the pictures because they're not in order.
That's to do with me.
They're not in order.
Yeah, so, I mean, the letter basically introduced myself. I mean, it talked about my own experience of, you know, understanding that I knew I was different, but I didn't know how I was different, and kind of being misdiagnosed throughout my life with mental health issues, and you know, nothing really working, and kind of realizing, oh, okay, I'm actually autistic, you know. And I wish I could have known this sooner if we'd actually, you know, had any research that actually included women in the research, which yay, now it does, or it's starting to, actually, at least with my project.
I've even got the part where you haven't actually got the items in your mouth, but this was your original one where, so all these items.
Oh, that's me with the objects. Yeah. And the headstand, actually, I don't know if you remember, actually, the headstand was talking about my struggle. And now when I think about it, it was talking about my struggle of masking. So it was kind of a metaphor for me standing on my head, basically, and falling, and then trying to do it again, and then falling again. It kind of, that whole kind of constant failure. You know, you're trying to kind of do this thing, standing on your head or masking, trying to pretend you're neurotypical, and just dealing with constant failure over and over until you're totally exhausted and all you can do is lie on the ground. And then I actually asked the audience members to come and help me stand up because I'm so tired.
So there was a number of things in that first one, but I guess, so then you were doing your workshops with the autistic participants for your actual PhD research, and that was all based on different senses. So each workshop in the lovely, we on the University of Kent campus have got, you know, lovely drama spaces that are really actually quite perfect for autistic people. They're big spaces, but they've got like a heated floor.
All black curtains.
Yeah, blackout curtains. You can really control the lights in terms of how bright they are, and we would turn them right down. And so it was a really great space to be in. And yeah, so each of your workshops was working on different senses. But what ended up happening was, as our friendship, you know, we would finish the workshops and then I would drive Annette home, for instance, or she would come to mine for food. And then we would just talk. We would pick things apart about what we were seeing, about our understanding of autistic experience, and how it just built from there, really. Like what you were seeing, what we were seeing together. You bring in your very creative way of getting people to articulate themselves, and me just sort of trying to, I guess, pick out key things of theories in my head were going round. And
I think we're just so excited because both of us, you know, done so much research kind of on autistic experience, the much we could, but to, you know, have like 18 people throughout the project kind of in and out, but to, you know, working with them and to hear about their experiences and to share our experiences, because I think that's the one thing we're always learning, like constantly. Like we did a talk last week on the autistic experience and gender as well, and it's just like, you know, constantly learning about autistic experience, you know, is pretty amazing. And it's just such an exciting time for you and me, because just every session it would be like, oh my gosh, what happened in that session? I can't believe, you know, that. And it was all, you know, very creative. So the first 3 sessions actually were something that we'd actually do now in SYA, where we basically I asked the participants to kind of try to think of something positive about their experience of being autistic, which sometimes can be very hard, especially for somebody who's just coming to terms with being autistic, or just being diagnosed, or just have had a really negative experience throughout their life. So trying to help everyone with that, and kind of coming up with stimmy words and kind of, you know, phrases. And then basically I taught everyone to applique. And we all appliqued on a t-shirt or a piece of clothing, or just a piece of fabric that you could hang in your room, a pillowcase, whatever it was, to have kind of this symbol of, you know, the hope that in some ways it was a symbol of the hope that we could have a positive autistic identity, that we could have.
And I liked it because it was immortalizing, is that right? You know, making real, making tangible. And so, you know, we're getting ahead of ourselves because you mentioned SYA and we haven't got to that bit.
I know.
But, you know, we've had, you know, a student who sewed or appliqued their word onto a pillow so they could rest their head on it. And like the symbolism of being able to rest your head on something positive about your autistic experience, when a lot of the time, not all, but obviously a large number of the autistic people we meet do have poor self-worth and self-esteem because of the negative narrative, which is why Annette and I, you know, we focus on.
It's interesting. And it's not even fully about the negative narrative, because if you're late diagnosed, you didn't even know you're autistic, but you're constantly invalidated, I suppose, as an undiagnosed autistic person, about your experience. You're constantly told, no, that's not the way it is. Oh, you're just normal. Oh, stop being lazy. Stop complaining. Stop, just go with the flow, and to a certain extent you lose, self-worth. And I think that's what is so great about what you're doing, Chloe, and what we've been doing with, the projects we're working on, is we're trying to heal together. I mean, it's not like, I don't have the greatest self-worth still. That's something that's constantly.
And I think, because what you said, we were still learning, we were learning stuff together and working stuff out together and things. And I think that's really important for every single human being. But, for us as well, is I know I don't know it all. I'm going to keep wanting to learn about and be updated by other autistic people about autistic experience, because I'm kind of selfish. Aucademy really is just my excuse to meet other autistic people and learn about really interesting things.
Definitely.
I know Jasper has come to see Annette. So people who've met Jasper before, he's actually Annette's cat. And then I whisper, but he's my cat now. But Jasper, so Jasper's been here since the beginning of lockdown, the very first lockdown, because Annette had to move because of lockdown, and where she went to, she couldn't bring Jasper. So here's
I thought
Jasper.
It was going for a week. It's been a year and a half.
It's been a year and a half. But moving on. Hello, Jasper. You've now got in the way.
I love it. He's got
he's just there. Shall we just
prominence there? I like it.
He is. His little half moustache. So we started. We would record our talking. Let me say that properly. We would record our talking as we would I would drive us from Canterbury to Whitstable, where Annette was living, and that's a 15-20 minute drive.
Yeah.
So we would record ourselves in the car, having a conversation about what we were understanding from what Annette was seeing in her workshops, from the autistic people we were seeing, and just from what we were reading, and just coming up with new ideas. So, in the summer of 2018, I kind of had an epiphany from the stuff that Annette and I was talking about how we were frustrated with the gendering of autistic experience, this so-called thing of female autism and so-called male autism. And we weren't seeing that, and Annette wasn't seeing that in her PhD or her research. And we were getting frustrated with the high versus low functioning, the mild versus severe, this ridiculous binary. And so I was in the shower and I came up with this idea of something that I'd learned from my PhD, making a 3-dimension space. And then I remember you coming round, and I've got a whiteboard on this wall behind my projector screen here. And I remember doing a drawing for you, and I was like, it should look like this and not this. And we were we just got really excited, and we started working on that, which we still need to actually publish that. But, looking at us as a fully rounded and diverse community with our individual spiky profiles. So that kind of came out of us talking. And just all of our talking about changing things and autistic experience. We were quite openly autistic. The rainbow sausage is part of it, Si. So the rainbow sausage is only a small part of. We probably will at some point, now that Annette's here. Annette, come around, get around to actually. Am I still sharing the screen? No, I'm not. Okay. We will, finally get around to actually talking about the 3-dimension autistic space that we wrote in 2018, and it's now 2021.
Yeah. I think. Well, the most important part of it is just basically saying that there's no such thing as a male autism, a female autism. That there's just autistic people, and it's a huge, diverse, universe of autistic people. It's all these stars in the sky. We kind of think about space in that way as well, and that the researchers for 70 years have been looking through a little microscope or a little kind of, I can't remember what they're called. What are they called? Binocular telescope at this few little stars over in a corner, and if they just take the telescope away, they'd see all the other autistic people and the huge variety of different types of people there are, and experience there is. which we felt it was 3-dimensional. I mean, at one point I was telling Chloe it should be like 7-dimensional, but she's like, I can't draw that.
No, you could, and I was trying to explain, but what we need is a good visual representation that people can understand about the truer autistic experience and the autistic community, because Damien, when we presented it, did say, you know, there is discussion about the nth dimension. The problem with things like nth dimension, meaning, you know, infinite, basically, is that people can't, what can you do with that? That's not tangible. So I like to be logical. I like to be able to give people something practical to be able to understand things, phenomena, people, phenomena.
Yeah.
Very quickly, because we can then move on to how we got onto SYA, and I won't forget. Yes. So actually, one of the dimensions is time, Amanda. So you're quite right. One of the dimensions is time, because it allows for change. We need to actually just present it to you guys at some point. We'll come on and we'll do that at some point.
Yeah, because that's super important.
I just need to explain why there's hashtag Team Salad Cream on the screen. Okay, so among the modmins of Aucademy, there has been this ongoing small battle between what is the right condiment, or what is the correct condiment. Sai and a number of the other modmins really love mayonnaise and really hate salad cream. Like Sai hates salad cream like Northern Naughty with a passion, whereas I have loved salad cream. It's been one of my particular things since I was a very small child. And, you know, if I go into a shop, I just buy, because I always need a supply of salad cream in my cupboard, and things like this. So I'm Team Salad Cream. There's a small number of us that are Team Salad Cream, and the rest are Team Mayonnaise. And so we've now Si's just put Team Mayo up.
Team Mayo.
Thought you'd been dismissed. I have not been dismissed. So basically what happened is one of our other modmins, RV, decided they made like a profile picture that you could have, and there was two. There's Aucademy Team Salad Cream or Aucademy Team Mayonnaise. And I went that little bit further, and I made an actual frame for Facebook called Team Salad Cream of Aucademy. And apparently I've been dismissed or disqualified from the fight because I made a frame. But I argue that there's only a small number of us that are on Team Salad Cream, so I need to fight dirty. Amanda saying option 3, which is, I cannot pronounce that one.
Aola?
Aioli?
Yeah, aioli.
Yeah, but
or America, you have Miracle Whip, which is something completely different. Which is what I grew up with. Miracle
Bobby
Whip.
Ellman has brought up the idea of Miracle Whip as well, but it is, you have to pick a side. You're either Team Mayo or Team Salad Cream.
But I didn't grow up with either of those.
But you know what they taste like, do you not?
Yeah.
Do you know what salad cream? Because Annette also has lots of intolerances to different things. So can you have salad cream?
Yeah, I can have salad cream because it's egg basically.
So it's because it's not got any milk in it. And the person on YouTube, Cornerstone City 777, salad cream wins every time. Yay, Team Salad Cream. So it's just this ridiculous ongoing thing. And somebody was asking that they said they'd never had salad cream before, and I think they were probably because they were in the States. And I said, trust me, I'm a doctor. Just have salad cream. Team Salad Cream. So that's just why, just so you know why there's this silly thing of Team Mayo and salad cream that keeps coming up on the screen. That's Northern Louis shouting out Team Mayo all the way. So there's a very small number of us that are Team Salad Cream. But to me, that's Team Salad Cream it's fine that there's fewer of us, because it means I have less people to fight in the apocalypse when we're fighting for the last jars of.
I would say I am probably Team Mayo. I haven't had Miracle Whip in 20 years. So Kelly, you don't have to. You could like me maybe.
Amanda saying a house divided. Yes. It's really fine because Louis has very, very particular sensory, like taste sensitivity. So he can't even do black pepper because black pepper to him is too spicy. Louis, we're live, so I'm not saying what you usually say. Okay. He usually says it burns on the way in and on the way out.
You just said what I usually say.
Louis should. Anyway, he says if it hurts you, it's not food. Anyway, so that's why there's Team Mayo. Before we move on as well, we'll explain why, if you have seen, like say, for several months, in any time I've mentioned the name Annette, people shouting Annette I say shouting, but capitalizing Annette with an exclamation mark in the comment section. So originally in one of our offline social groups, we were waiting one day for Annette to turn up. She was finishing some work that she was doing with somebody else, and we were waiting for her to turn up. And every time the door opened, which would have been a different student or somebody turning up for our group, a couple of people just kept shouting Annette, like to look to see if it was Annette, and it just kept going, and it just stuck. And so now anytime the name Annette is mentioned, we all just kind of go Annette and just shout it. That's literally it. There's no more to it than that, but it does amuse me.
It does sum me up. I'm kind of a chaotic autistic. I'm always late. I'm always confused. I'm always lost usually. So yeah, people are always yelling my name anyways, just because I'm like I can't recognize anybody's faces out in the street either. So
I love it because like loads of people are just shouting Annette in the comment section now as well, and it's audience participation, and I think it's really funny because I think recently when the first time you kind of came on very impromptu when we had Kieran Rose on, somebody in the comment section said they didn't realize you were a real person, and that every time I've been going Annette, that you're actually a real person. So that's just some backstory to some silliness, because I do like some silliness. Oh, Kelly, hard relate, always late, always confused. You might get on with Annette. I love it. I can see as well, like Amanda Panda is one of our modmins. I can see she's also, her thumbnail is one of the Team Mayo profile pictures. It's just silliness that's just fantastic. Okay, so we were friends. We were trying to work out what it meant to be autistic together. You were doing your workshops. We were noticing things. We still need to do work on, what you and I were discussing, which we were noticing, for instance, that I have the salad cream frame.
I mean, and I want to make clear that this was with the other participants as well. This is like a joint. They were really investigators, because everyone.
Yours is very participatory. Participatory work, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we were really interested, and I became really interested in things like, I'm a social psychologist. I see correlations between things, and I was noticing that, a number of people that we were meeting, if they'd been sort of made to suppress, whether that was, consciously made to suppress their stims, so their movements and things, or unconsciously just because of like peer pressure or something like that we were noticing they were more likely to have what we now class as harmful stims. So that was a really important thing, because it's now part of something, training, trying to explain to families, to parents, to teachers, check, is that person self-harming, or are they actually harmful stimming? If it's harmful stimming, then you need to be looking into, okay, what's the sensory need, what's the regulatory need, and why isn't it being fulfilled, what's happening in the environment. So that was a really important thing that we still need to write about as well.
And is there any kind of stimming that they were stopped from doing, either due to pressure from society or peer pressure or from family pressure?
I'm just going to hide the comment section because they're all just talking, I think, largely about so I'm just gonna
I mean, that was another great thing about the workshops, is discovering really as a group kind of the joy of stimming and group stimming, and ultimately kind of that's how we kind of discovered the whole idea of mindful stimming as well, and that was huge.
You're the reason that I really, because I was doing what I would do best, which is researching into the community and understanding autistic experience. But it was you that was like really hammering home what I now think is the most fundamental thing to understand about autistic people, is that we fundamentally process all sensory information differently to non-autistic people, and that impacts every other aspect of who we are. And so that came from you. And, I sit here with my stimmy things. I've got so many stimmy things on my desk that people can't even see. I've got, stims everywhere.
Oh, I want my watermelon.
You want your watermelon. But Annette is the reason that I started doing that. I was very self-conscious. I was very uncomfortable when we started doing the workshops and you were expecting us to just fidget with objects and this. And it wasn't, I was like, no, that was my mask, right? So now I will, you know, both Annette and I will, if we're presenting, even if it's a conference, thanks for that side. If it's a conference, you know, Annette and I will probably have a STEM object while we're presenting. And things. So that was huge.
Yeah. I mean, and discovering the joy and the excitement and passion. I mean, just that stimming is, you know, for me as a late diagnosed person, at first I kind of thought, oh, stimming is all about anxiety. And it's so not. It's just such an amazing thing and such a huge part of autistic community. That is suppressed basically because it's not accepted within society. Yeah, and hopefully that's going to change as well.
And I've just seen Victoria. I know why that is. So I feel really bad. I introduced Victoria's amazing daughter, so bright and just really, really funny. Her sense of humor is amazing, Victoria. I introduced her to the Jabbable.
Oh,
except Victoria and her daughter, they got a Jabbable. And I'm just to warn everyone, I'm going to make a noise with it, but I won't do it in the mic. So you can imagine what a young person might do all day with the Jabbable. So that's why Victoria's saying, would you like another Jabbable?
Because you have to squeeze it to get the tongue to come out, which makes a noise. You need to take the noise thing out of it, possibly.
No, don't de-squeak it. Anyway, okay, so yeah, so we were doing all these things. We were talking loads. We were investigating who we were, learning stuff, working stuff out, coming up with ideas. And we were very openly autistic on campus. So I think at that time, we'd taken over the autistic social group.
Yes.
I think before SYA, I think that's right.
Yeah, I think it's about the same time. I think it was that spring we took over, and changed it to UOKA. Yeah, because it wasn't you. And then, yeah, right before we started doing SYA.
Okay, so we were, and so we were very openly autistic, and people knew who we were, I guess, to some extent. So we were sitting on panels about what it's like to be an autistic student, and we got approached by 2 female presenting autistic people who at that point in time weren't diagnosed, and they were asking questions. You know, they were asking. Right, I'm taking off the comments again, so I can't see them.
I do like Amanda's comment though about the living theater group growth, but we should do group STEM, another performance piece, which would be amazing. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, and I talk about you know, being in the conference and stimming because I was really getting burnt out, and Sonia started copying me, and then somebody else started doing a stim, and it was just lovely. It's just this really, and like you say, the same thing when we were. I do miss some elements of being offline. There's lots of good things about being online, but there's some things I do miss. And part of that was us being in the really large drama spaces. And we just, you know, got to the end of the workshop and we were all just on the floor, upside down, stimming and just chatting. And it was just this like really kind of like a slumber party, but with stimming. And we were just chatting.
And just to have that, STEM suitcase with a bunch of toys, you know, all sorts of stuff in it, you know. Coloring books, all sorts of things, whatever, you know.
Amanda says, tell them when and they'll be there. The thing is, I think Amanda's in the US. So you know, we've been approached by these 2 female presenting autistic people, and I kind of do what my brain does normally and go, oh, we should do this, that, and the other, and try and help them, because like Annette said, it wasn't, you know, it's not always a very positive experience when you discover you're autistic, and it can take a lot of working it out. And the things I was getting frustrated with when I was working myself out was the amount of nonsense that's online. You know, when you do search and try to figure out, well, what is autism? What does it mean to me? You're confronted with negative narrative, the pathology narrative, non-autistic people's perspectives of autism, and it's all based on children largely. I think that's starting to change now a lot, but I think back then it was, I say back then, this is only 2017 that I'm talking about. You know, I was like, people don't want this, and because I delved into, both of us had been delving into the real autistic experience and autistic voices, we started compiling things and putting stuff together so that people could avoid the mountain of nonsense that's out there that doesn't actually help your well-being one iota. So we kind of combined our skills. So we made a plan and we put together basically a pre and or post diagnostic support program for autistic people at our university, where it combined my sort of stigma reduction background, like how does that work? How do we reduce stigma towards the self? And that was based on, you know, using the neurodiversity narrative for a more balanced perspective of yourself, so that you don't see yourself as broken, and bringing in your much more creative way of exploring the self. Yeah. And immortalizing it positively. Yeah. So we put that together, 6 sessions.
No, was it always 6? I thought it was always 8.
No, it was 6 to 8. It was 6 originally.
It was 6
so we put this together. Yeah.
Then we realized that we needed 8 for a more community was so important as part of it. We just need more time.
Everyone, yeah. Although I think they would always say they want like 100 sessions. Like,
I know
how many we extend it to. So, okay, I'm going to come off of the comments again. And we started doing it like a pilot with the first 2 female presenting autistic people that we met. And I can't remember how, but by word of mouth, 2 other students joined.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because we were doing talks and things, and people would come up to us at the end of talk and say, I think I might be autistic.
So we did the pilot, I guess, with 4 students originally. And then we were like, this seems to be doing something good. So we went to student support and wellbeing, and me, because I like a PowerPoint, I did a PowerPoint for student support and wellbeing. And I said, look, we put this thing together. You know, we'd like to offer it out of the student support and wellbeing. And I did find it amusing, do you not? Because student support were like, they're very on board, they're fantastic.
Yeah,
but they were like, but I don't think you'll get much call.
You won't get very many people. Yeah.
Because I'd worked out how often we could do it and run it and, you know, all this kind of thing. And they were like, oh, I don't think you end up with that many people though. But we ended up having little waiting lists and basically running the program every term for different groups. So we've been doing that now since 2018. So we've probably supported, it's around 60 odd students, I think now.
Yeah, I think so.
What was the question in relation to, Alice? So has it radically changed in the last 3 years? Is that the narrative, do you think, that's out there? Because I would say it's starting to, yes. I think, if I'm answering the question correctly, Alice, I think from when Annette and I started doing things, there was the start very much of a lot more online stuff and being able to access that different narrative.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. When I first started my project on kind of trying to make art about being autistic in 2015, yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. I mean, there was hardly any information about women at that time. In the last 6 years, it's just exploded. And you know, yeah, I think it's including all genders as well as. I mean, I think the community is. I don't know. For some, I think the research still is behind, but the autistic community, and it's much better than it was 6 years ago. That's for sure. The community has always been there, and a lot of the things the community, you know, autistic people have been saying for years that researchers are just starting to get their grips around, which is typical.
And I think that's really frustrating because there's been some fantastic autistic pioneers who, you know, the autistic community, it really isn't new. It's been here a long time from when there were just, you know, original online forums. If anyone's old enough to remember those really basic online forums that existed, you know, way before Facebook, all that kind of thing. So our community has been here a long time. We're just now, we've got far more platforms to actually share autistic experiences and stories, which is, I think, a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, so we're doing SYA, and then basically I think we just both got stuck into our CCs.
Yeah.
We've
still doing SYA.
And we still do SYA. Yeah, this social group.
We run the social group for the university as well.
Lots of talks, lots of training in all that time. And so now that Annette, you're here.
I know.
What are we going to do next?
I don't know.
Is that too scary? Okay, sorry.
No, so much. I still have my Viva, which is 3 weeks away. So, but yes, we have lots of stuff to do. We just have to decide
what to do. Yeah.
What to learn.
Part of what we want to do, is to keep educating. Lots of free education like we do with Aucademy. Do lots of training. Publish on our 3-dimension space, because we still haven't done that. We've presented on it, but we should publish on it.
What else we want? Well, we want to do a research project on SYA and see if we can get it kind of approved. Well, we wanted to go through the NHS. That would be the most amazing thing, to get it so that everybody who's waiting for diagnosis can go through it. That would be amazing.
And Northern Autist said build Utopia.
Yes,
we're slowly getting there, because we're building this lovely community as well via connecting to different people through Aucademy. So we had Sarah McCulloch last week, who's from Autistic Empire, and her, by trade, she's an occupational therapist, but autistic, and she wants to set up like a primary and secondary school. And I'm like, and I want to actually build a bricks and mortar Aucademy. So then it would literally be, bringing those autistic pupils, they could go into Aucademy and just having a real authentic autistic embraced experience of life.
Well, I think there needs to be an autistic studies program. There's a women's studies program. There's all sorts of different types of studies programs. Why not autistic studies? I think, basically that's what I did my PhD on, but there's no such thing as it. I'm being distracted by the light. I need to shut the curtains. It's very.
I'm being distracted by the light as well.
Yeah. Wait, there, I'm out of the light. Oh, okay. We also talked about doing a book on how to create autistic spaces, because we want to create autistic spaces. We want it to be created all over the world. We need
little pockets of autistic
little pockets. I just think community is so incredibly important. Autistic people need to know other autistic people and spend time with other autistic people on a regular basis, or it's incredibly hard to not slip into kind of the whole culture of autism, of not having that positive autistic identity. Because if you're within a neurotypical society and you're not around autistic people enough, it's really easy to forget and start blaming yourself.
That's a really nice segue and inadvertent promotion, or could be an inadvertent promotion of a blog that I've just had done. Yay! If people are interested, and there's a video, so if you're not really interested in reading, I made a little cartoon video as well. But this was on, a rose. I've been writing this for a year. It's taken me so long to get this done. It was a rose by any other name would smell of stigma, or the psychologically important difference between being a person with autism, in quotation marks, or an autistic person. And that's just what Annette and I are always talking about and going on about, which is that that if you want to improve your well-being, whether you're an adult or a young person, or if it's your child, then if you want that person to feel good about themselves, then they need that positive autistic identity. And we can't have a positive identity built on being a person with autism. And I kind of explain, so I won't go into it now, but the stuff that Annette and I talk about all the time, which is, you need that different narrative. You need the connection to autistic people.
And I'm still trying to, I think it's with SYA as well, we need to figure out a way to kind of create, we always talk about having satellite groups after the fact, but I think we need to really focus on that at the end, that to make it clear to people that if you go away from SYA and you don't kind of create a community of autistic people that you spend time with, it's going to be very difficult to keep that positivity that has happened within, you know what I mean? I think just been thinking about that a lot lately. Yeah, it's just so important to know other autistic people and spend time with them. And
because
to stand together. And just to feel, like, oh, wow, there's other people that are like me, to hear things that you know about yourself and you thought we were the only one, to hear that out of other people's mouths. But it's very easy to fall back into the whole, everything is my fault, I'm not good enough, the shoulds. I should do this, I should do that, I should do this. I didn't do that, oh no, and I think it's a lifetime battle for me. I don't think it's gonna just go away.
And I think your biggest thing is that, because you're always telling everybody that they need to be kinder to themselves.
That's my mantra.
Yeah, that's your mantra. And I think the thing is that sometimes I feel sad because I talk about it in it's that article that we still need to figure out where we're going to publish it, but it's about the autistic discovery journey, like in words and pictures. So it's taken a lot of pictures from Annette's performance to demonstrate what we're talking about. And I talk about it in the sense of so one part of the show, I won't show the more.
Yeah, we didn't say at the end of the workshops, then we ended up, there was about 6 participants, including Chloe, which I talked into doing it, who ended up, we're a part of a show called Super Autie Gang, because I always felt like the performance should include lots of voices, lots of different autistic people and their experiences.
And that I like, even now when I was like trying to write things, and I kept coming back to some of the stuff that we talked about and learned during and doing your workshops and doing the performance and things. So I've got here, oh no, I want both of us.
Yeah, oh yeah, got it.
Yeah, so Annette, part of the show had always been Annette. You wouldn't have seen it or known until right at the end, but Annette was, her whole body was covered in Sharpie permanent marker with all sorts of negative words, literally every part of her body nearly of negative words. Sorry?
Nothing.
Nearly. Okay, yeah. Keep it wholesome, Annette. Keep it wholesome. So she, had spent painstakingly hours, given that, again, dyslexic and dyspraxic, trying to cover her own body in sharpied words that were really quite negative that she'd heard throughout her life. And when we did the joint performance with a number of other, the autistic participants from your thesis, I wasn't prepared to do that. I wasn't interested or comfortable, one, having Sharpie on me, and two, the fact that basically Annette gets nude at the end. It's not of a sexual nature. The purpose is to demonstrate how damaging negative narrative and words are from the society around us and from people and to ourselves as well. And I asked Annette, when she was sitting doing all the words on her body, if she could actually put some of the words of mine on her as well. And when I was writing recently, given that we did this 2019, I started thinking about the symbolism of that. And so on here, like I say, you can see Annette, she's got the words standoffish, cold, unapproachable, which were some of the words that are used to describe me. And yeah, I was thinking last year, a year after we'd done this, about that symbolism, which is my friend Annette, who is my best friend. I'm gonna get all sad now, not sad like sad, but in like a, oh, my friend. But my friend Annette has been there quite from the start, really, of my discovery journey. So we've been friends for a while, and working out who I am with you. And it was like, and then I thought about it last year that I basically tattooed with Sharpie permanent marker the really negative words that have been used about me onto you, and then it made me start thinking about how when we meet other autistic people that we get on with, because we can't get on with everyone, and that's fine. Yeah. But when we do, when you get to be your authentic self and work out who you are, the burden of that negative self-talk and the horrible things that, you know, society might say about autistic people, well, really they're saying about autism. They don't really understand autistic experience at all.
No.
You get to share that burden, as opposed to doing it on your own. All of a sudden you actually get to share it with other people. And then part of the performance, Annette, it's quite hard to watch, but Annette will then scrub off the words on her body with a bristled brush, and it's really quite painful to watch. And the point is, it's really hard to remove those negative words from yourself. But at the same time, it was together we're scrubbing off the crappy things that were also said about me.
Yeah, I'm going to do it anyways.
Like together, it was just really,
we have to do that.
Yeah, and it was the symbol of, because it wasn't just, you know, it was just a last minute, oh, Annette, stick some of my words on as well. And then thinking later about the symbolism, I think, is really important. And so that's what I've also been trying to write about, and that Annette and I can start talking about more, which is, like I say, finding other autistic people, sharing the burden of how we've been made to feel about ourselves and how that's not being a nice, you know, narrative, and then starting to scrub away those sharpie tattooed words. And I also talk about how that the residue's still there. There's still like little bits of tattoo, because Annette still apologizes constantly when you've not done anything wrong.
I know, I do that. That's definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because just thinking about it, you know, I'm wearing all these words underneath my clothes the whole show. So it's really, thinking about it now, it's masking, isn't it? You know, you're kind of covering up, but the little words are kind of peeking out. So there's some on my hands and there's a bit on my chest. You know, you can see that I'm actually not, you know, that there's something there that, you know, is a bit different that I don't know about. And then at the end, you know, the vulnerability of actually showing all those words to people and standing there in front of people naked is really my authentic autistic self to a certain extent, and saying, okay, this is me. I'm damaged. My self-esteem has been affected by all this, you know, and what can I do to start healing? And what's important about that is so important to do that with other autistic people as well. And it's not easy, you know, and there's ups and downs. And sometimes you start writing the words back, you know, you got to scrub them off again. But, you know,
I'm trying to see if there's one that we can show.
But without other autistic people, it's almost impossible, I think, to do that, because it's just to know that, you know, other people love that authentic self person, and to have the confidence to do that, it just takes so much.
Shall I show? I mean, I don't know if you think, can you see the one I'm thinking of showing?
No.
Team Naked. Thank you, Si. I mean, just to forewarn people, but you can't see anything rude.
Is it the one that's the kind of nice picture where I'm kind of doing this with my hair?
Oh no, it's the one where you're scrubbing.
Oh, I'm scrubbing. Oh, okay, just my legs.
Yeah, is that okay?
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean it's on Aucademy page, but
so
this is, like I say, this is oh no, press the wrong one again. So like I say, it's quite a difficult thing to watch, because, you know, it's a bristle brush and she's really scrubbing and getting really pink, and knowing as well that she's autistic with sensory sensitivities, it also makes it that much harder to watch, because it's like, oh my god, that must be really painful. And so watching her,
I go super
scrubbing,
red.
Yeah, scrubbing all of these negative words off is quite powerful. And so I'm just thinking as well, if there's a couple more that are quite nice, like the symbolism and what have you. Like you said, like with friends. So I've got, this one, this is lovely. Like, we're all happy stimming on stage, right?
Yeah.
You know, we're all defenders. This is Jess. Jessica is in the background of Aucademy. So we're all happy stimming and, you know, together with other people, which is lovely. Oh yeah, Amanda, my somatic empathy. Yeah, it's very hard to watch. It's a very powerful thing to watch. I keep taking off the share screen just in case there's pictures that we don't want to show.
That's fine.
I'm just looking at what other ones. I mean, this one, just because it cracks me up and it was really impromptu. Actually, I think it was Kristen's suggestion. So at the very beginning, when Annette is doing her yoga and reciting her letter to Simon Baron-Cohen, just explaining how angry she is that we've been missed as autistic people and the damage that's done. But what amused us is she makes it look like she forgets her lines. I mean, Annette does know the letter. She doesn't need the letter in front of her. But somebody made the suggestion that because she's
dyslexic, forget the lines sometimes.
Sometimes, okay. But because she's dyslexic and dyspraxic and what have you, so she's trying to do these multiple things. She's trying to read this letter and she's trying to do her yoga moves. Somebody made the suggestion that it'd be really funny if I kept running out to remind her what part she's supposed to be reading, and it was just this impromptu bit where I was like, oh, Annette, and just like putting it between her legs, and it was hilarious. I really enjoyed that bit.
Yeah, so I kept calling Chloe over to help me because I bring the letter. Basically, I say I'm still masking. You know, I'm pretending that I'm not autistic, dyslexic, and dyspraxic, and I can remember my lines and do all these things. And actually, I don't want to mask anymore. So I brought the letter out, but then because I was doing kind of difficult yoga positions, I needed help. So Chloe came over and she would help and hold it for me, which is very funny. Yeah, and thinking about that now, it's funny because as an artist, a lot of times I make things and then don't really fully understand them until years later. But that's in some ways talking about executive functioning, isn't it? Like trying to figure things out in a way, like when you're having a conversation with somebody, you know, somebody said once, I wish I could just have a buffer symbol, you know, so when somebody's talking to me that my brain could just buffer and you could see it. And then when I'm ready to speak, people would be like, okay. But in a way that doing the yoga while I'm trying to read the letter is kind of how communication is for a lot of autistic people on kind of a daily basis, you know, that there's a lot going on that people aren't seeing to a certain extent. That makes sense.
Well, that's what I say, that even though it's been it has been several years. But I say, just that the symbolism of some of the stuff that we did, and some of it, like I say, was impromptu, only started to process it recently. I just want to share this last one as well. So we had this, which you can actually share. You're welcome to share this as well, which is so do you want to explain this, like why we did this?
So this is the autism treatment wheel. I think originally it was based on that whole idea of you know, treatments are ridiculous for autism, for one thing, but also that we wanted to give a treat to our autism. So we came up with what we feel are good treats, which is like toe walking, going back to nature, exercise, daydreaming about an autistic planet. Everybody kind of came up with one. Fabric creeping, which is like touching lovely fabrics that you like. Happy stim dancing, of course, because stimming's awesome. Buy yourself a new stim toy. And this wheel would like spin during the performance, and it would fall on different things. And then that kind of, Jess would talk about toe walking, which was hilarious, and Chloe did a whole PowerPoint on Daydream Autistic Planet.
Samara's put down there, Daydream Autistic Planet equals Utopia, and basically yes. So I did this I'd already been doing this. So basically I explained so Annette was trying to think of things that I could do during the performance, given that I'm not a performer naturally and I was uncomfortable. So she was like, well, you love doing a PowerPoint, so why don't you do a PowerPoint? And I was like, oh, yes, because I love PowerPoint.
Not at first. You were like, no, I'm not doing it.
I don't like doing anything really, but that's how I have the conversation. So I've got a cat here. Oh, no. I don't know where that's come from. blue and cat hair. So yeah, I'd already, during the workshops, because we just had all these conversations, and I just explained that when I'm stressed and anxious, I actually do daydream and make up what would my autistic planet look like. For a while it was Autistic Scotland, this idea of like changing Scotland and then pushing away from England like it's autistic friendly, and then it became a planet and things like that. So so that's what we did. Hold on, not that one.
We did a great little
this is the thing, because the pictures aren't in order, so hold on. Here we go. So this was like, here's me presenting a presentation on treating your autism with imagining an autistic planet. And so that's what I did. So I just explained what an autistic planet for me would be like. I think of a safe place for people who are autistic, where they don't have to feel scared or weird or have to be anything other than autistic. It also had like funny things on there as well, which was, I don't know if it's got the picture, I don't think it has, which was things like...
you're scooping up autistic people, or what's in it? I can't remember.
It's quiet. It's, there's lots of green and space, and hand dryers and things are banned. Like there's no hand dryers, there's no noisy motorbikes or anything on the autistic planet. Just that's what I used to do to try and stay calm when I was getting anxious or stressed, is to think about a really nice place, which to some extent is kind of what Aucademy, again, I'm trying to funnel these ideas of safe autistic utopia spaces in things like Aucademy. And then very recently, lovely Arvi, one of our modmins, heard me mention Utopia and did their own, I still haven't seen it, I need to see it, but did their own presentation on what Utopia for them would look like, which I'd love to see.
And we also did dancing in tents, which was amazing. That was
the bit where I was like, this is very abstract. And during the workshops, while we were rehearsing, literally, grown autistic adults inside these tents. I don't know if I've got any pictures of the actual tents.
So I created this kind of prototype thing, which was what was it called again?
Overwhelm
avoidance device, which was basically a tent that you could wear on as a backpack. And if you ever felt overwhelmed, it's like a tall tent, and it was black, and it has an open top and an open bottom, but you can just pop it up really quick and get inside and then just kind of calm down. And then when you're feeling better, you can kind of come out and pop it down again and go about your way. And so I did a performance where I did that in Canterbury City Centre, which was quite hilarious, which I used to show to the audience. But then everyone loved the tent so much, we decided that we should get one for everyone in the show.
Well, it was because it cracked me up, because I like cute things, anything that's really sweet or just makes me laugh. So that's the tent, just so you've got an idea what they look like.
Yeah.
But anything that makes me laugh. And I remember, because I helped you, I think, rehearse, and we recorded your second performance of it, I think. And I remember just really loving being able to see your feet poke out the bottom while you're running around the stage. Like, I loved that. It was so cute. And I remember a bit where you'd forgotten to grab your cape, your costume, and so you like scuttled across the stage to like suck up the costume, which wasn't part of like the performance, but I was like, you have to do that all the time. It's so fun just to see you sucking up this costume into the tent. So I just wanted you to keep it because of this cuteness.
And then the whole idea of dancing and synchronized dancing in tents became a thing, and we all danced inside of the tents to, what was it? Something some Swan Lake. It was it's the dance of the swans, possibly, or something. I can't remember. I can't remember.
But as we're doing the choreography, as we're rehearsing, I just stuck my head out of the tent and I was like, are the NTs in the audience going to get this? Like, we're just a bunch of autistic adults dancing around in tents. And you were all like, blah, blah, blah. And we actually kept that bit in. We kept that bit in where I literally do stick my head out and say it very loudly. And it's just this joke. And I think we ended up exaggerating it by me sticking out my head and going, are the NTs, the neurotypical people in the audience going to get this? Because, they're not very good with empathy. or something like that, wasn't it? Or perspective taking.
You added that on the end.
Yeah, because that's genuinely what I thought. I thought, we get this. We get us dancing intense and that it's fun and that it's stimmy. But are neurotypical people going to understand this? And that was my genuine thing. Like, are they actually going to get this? Okay, we've just been rambling literally for like
an hour and a half,
nearly.
So we look like Daleks. Is that what they're called? See, I'm American.
Oh, yeah.
I just pronounced it wrong.
Daleks, yeah, in the tents,
which was quite cool.
But no, I'm thinking now we've been rambling for like an hour and a half. Just wondering if anyone's got any questions. It literally could be absolutely anything. It could be random because we have no topic.
There was a cool comment a long time ago. I missed. Oh, it said, can I read a comment by Kelly? Oh,
yeah.
Beautiful STEM story from today. A friend of mine was sharing about an autistic performer friend of ours, and she said, I just love the way she stims on stage. I just admiring her autistic expression as so beautiful and valid because it was a passionate moment. I'm like, yes, it's just so genuine and full way of being with yourself and your environment. I think so too. I think we need to make stimming and just an awesome thing that everyone does.
Oh wait, what was the banner? Hold on. Team Autistic Community. Okay, so Sai's just been going nuts with making.
He has
hashtags. So yeah, I mean, important question for everybody: are you team mayonnaise or team salad cream?
Yeah. Oh, once again, yes, of course. We are, yeah.
Sai, what is this one? Do you want to buy my hobby tools? I no longer have use for them. They include a hoover, a broom, a mop, a bucket, dustpan, a brush, and washing up gloves.
Those don't sound like hobby tools. It's like cleaning tools.
I'm very confused. Okay, Kelly's team salad cream. So that's one for salad cream.
Oh, okay.
Northern Sai, Northern Autie, Northern Sai. Well, he's both. We know, Sai, that you're team mayonnaise and that you think salad cream is evil. Victoria is neither. But Victoria, please. I actually probably can't ask if there's demand avoidance in the learners section and the comments. But do we not want to pick a team?
I know I have to say, I mean, I did say male, but I don't really care.
Whether it's mayo or salad cream.
Yeah, I don't really like either of them.
No,
I'm a ketchup person.
No, there is no other option. It's the apocalypse, and there's mayonnaise or there's salad cream.
Sour cream. That's what he said.
Okay, so Amanda is, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it, aioli, I can't say it, ranch dressing.
Aioli, I think that's...
I mean, ranch dressing is quite an American thing, right? Chocolate, yes, obviously. Victoria's just not going to, no. Victoria's just like, no. Samara, can't say as I've never had salad cream, although I do like mayo. Okay, Samara, well, you can be team salad cream.
Wait, she says she likes mayo, though.
Vicky Clark, salad cream, yay! Amanda has gone intentionally renegade. Sour cream. No, that's Cecil. There's only two options. It's the apocalypse. There's only mayonnaise or salad cream. Which team will you be on? James North, salad cream.
Oh, it's Mediterranean, France. Aioli.
Samara has autonomy. I choose brave in the apocalypse if made to choose. My ban hammer is going to be busy. Oh, your ban hammer. Oh, what? Yeah. So Sai is just going to make a decision if you're team mayonnaise, whether he's going to ban you from Aucademy.
Oh,
Sai,
no.
I don't understand the hatred of the beautiful salad cream. I mean, like I say, I'm happy if there's fewer people who like salad cream because it means more salad cream for me.
That's true.
That's how I see that.
It's kind of a Marmite thing, isn't it? Either love or hate it. It's a salad cream thing.
Cecil, yes, lovely. Cecil's on team salad cream. Good. Yay! Okay, this is just randomness.
Yeah, it is. We should go.
So thank you for being here for the randomness.
You're welcome.
Kelly says, full disclosure, never had salad cream, but love the idea of it. It's lovely. It's beautiful. I like to hate salad cream, so it wins above the apathy of mayo. James, that's a fair enough. And if you don't like it that much, then yeah, in the apocalypse, you can help me store it for myself. No, salad cream plus Marmite. No.
I'll come on another time as well and actually talk about my research properly instead of just
this was
rambling.
very impromptu randomness. So lovely people. Next week, Annette will be back on, I think, if you're wanting, because we're going to do Daryl Sukin.
Oh yeah.
So next week we will have Daryl Sukin on. I haven't actually double checked what his topic's going to be. So that'll be a surprise. I'll give you the information during the week. So yeah, I've been joined by Annette.
Yay.
And salad cream for the win.
And salad cream.
Oh, and they're just thanking you for sharing as well. Yes, excited, Stimmy Ball. Lovely. Thank you so much. Lovely you. People. And we will see you next Saturday. Like say 7 o'clock. We've got Daryl Sukin. He's actually one of our students. So that's going to be interesting. I'm not sure if in the week Tigger and David will have a new podcast out, but they have started a podcast, so it's called Especially Interesting. So if you are an autistic person with a dedicated interest that you feel you could talk about for a period of time, get in contact with David and or Tigger. You can just message the main page if you like, just saying that you'd be interested in talking about your dedicated interests. And it's a podcast, so you don't have to be on screen and you don't have to be talking about autism. So yeah, we're very specifically talking about Autistic Experience on the main page Aucademy, but they're just talking about anybody's dedicated interests. And the first podcast they did, which is on Spotify and Anchor and a number of other places, was on the Lord of the Rings, because they both love it.
Yay.
So yeah. Bye, lovely people.
Okay, bye.